everyone. And welcome to the InvestGP Committee meeting of June 11th, 2024. I'll call a meeting to order and ask for a motion to adopt the agenda. Councillor Palat.
So moved.
And call a question.
Councillor Plott in favor.
And that carries unanimously. We will move on to the delegation portion of the meeting. Today we're joined by Grande Prairie Storm, so I would ask you to introduce yourselves and proceed with your presentation.
Good morning. I'm Nicole Menzies, the Executive Director of the Storm.
Murray Taves, past president of the Storm.
Jordan Johnson, Treasurer.
Got a copy of the presentation for all of you just on the edge there. Let's go on. Or?
Can we get the computer? USB-C?
Oh, yeah, there it was. Okay.
Oh, Nicole, Ken, we saw it.
I saw it for a second, yeah. There we go. Thank you. So we just wanted to give a kind of summary of what has happened with the Storm in the last year. Obviously, this was an unprecedented year in the AJHL. We had 5 teams leave the league mid-season to join the BCHL. And that obviously caused a variety of challenges for the AJHL in terms of PR, legal, scheduling. However, we're pretty excited. The league will have 12 teams next year. We've gone back to North and South divisions, which works very well for travel. So we're really excited about what is coming up in the upcoming season for the league. Another point for us this year was our Junior Storm programming. That youth development program grew exponentially in the last year. In summer camp, we had 350 registered participants over 2 weeks. Our development program during the school year, which includes after-school development for the fall, the winter break, and spring break clinics, saw 255 participants, and for our spring hockey program, we had 502 youth players try out with 343 earning spots. Another highlight for us this season was the league attendance. So the Storm had both the highest average attendance as well as the 2 highest single game attendances in the entire AJHL, which we're very proud of. In terms of sports tourism, we hosted 110 prospects at our prospects camp in Grande Prairie, as well as 34 futures players. So those would be our U15 players who are not quite yet eligible for AJHL hockey, but will be in the next couple of years. And more than half of those futures players were from out of town. Our team spent hundreds of volunteer hours in the community. Some examples were reading in schools. During Literacy Week, they visited 22 schools, more than 100 classrooms, playing floor hockey and mini sticks for PE units, the Junior Storm programming. The players helped with first shift, which gets new players on the ice, minor hockey practices, and they volunteered with Battle of the Blades, the Pattison Media Charity Drive, Remembrance Day setups and teardowns, Cars for Christmas, the downtown celebration at the start of the season, and the Christmas tree lighting. And in addition, they were able to support several local charities and nonprofits at the home games this season. Another interesting point for us this year was of all of our in-arena and promotional advertising, 33% of our sponsors were new to the Storm this season. So we're excited to have been able to reach some new groups in the community. We are very excited that the Junior Storm is home to the largest spring hockey program in Alberta. and among the largest in Western Canada. So there are 2 others in BC that have as many teams as we do, but we are currently the largest in Alberta. So we're really proud of how quickly that's grown and the demand for that here. This spring, we iced 20 teams, including 5 all-female teams. So also the largest all-female program outside of the cities. And we had 27 tournament registrations, which resulted in 13 medals and 19 medal round games. So also excited that our teams are going and representing Grande Prairie well and medaling there. So we've made several internal changes for the 24-25 season. We promoted Chris Schmidt to the head coach. He's been with the team for 3 years. And that now gives us an entirely local Peace Country area coaching staff. So our head coach, our assistant coach, and our strength and conditioning coach and trainer are now all from the Grande Prairie area and have all come up through the minor hockey system before going to play university and professional hockey. We've also drastically reduced our operating budget by reducing our travel costs, staff salaries and positions, and our game day operating costs. In addition, we'll be reducing our roster size, which also allows us to AP more young local players. We have a plan in place to work with GPAC to promote those local players and also to be a part of their development from the U15 age on. We have plans to increase our Junior Storm programming to meet the needs of these local youth hockey players. And we also have plans in place to increase the community events that we offer and volunteer opportunities for the players. What we'd like to ask today is a proposed continued partnership, which would be continuing what we had in place last season, which would be ice at the city rinks for our youth hockey development programming, which is summer camps, fall and winter sessions, and Junior Storm spring hockey at no cost, as well as an extension of the Bonnet's Energy facility fee for the 24-25 season.
Do we have any questions for the delegation? Councillor Bressie?
Excellent. Thanks for the presentation. I appreciate it. I'm especially excited to hear the success of new sponsors. That's it's an interesting, good statistic. 2 questions. The first one is, can you remind me in terms of the ask for free ice time for your juniors camps, is that being used to, is the donation of ice time used to give a low-cost camp to kids, or is that used so that there's a revenue opportunity for the Storm? Just what's the philosophy of how you're setting the fees?
It's both. So we are proud at the cost of our program. It is the most affordable development programming, both in terms of after-school development, single sessions. When you compare to what other organizations offer, it's a low cost, which makes it manageable for families. And in addition, the Junior Storm programming does provide a revenue stream for the Storm as well.
So are you able to tell me approximately what families are paying for those?
Sure, you bet. The average cost of our spring program, which would have included 10 to 12 practices, 1 to 2 tournaments, additional coaching like power skating, goalie coaching, as well as like some sort of Storm apparel to wear at the tournaments, would have been about $650.
Okay.
So that would be for the 8 games. We also did exhibition games. Other programs run kind of north of $1,000. And then same with our summer camps, $325 to $350 for 2 ice time sessions a day, a jersey, a dry land training session, and a classroom training session.
Great, thank you. And I've got a question on a completely different topic.
I'll go ahead.
Okay. I'm also curious, there have been changes in the league. How do you picture those impacting, especially the financial picture?
Well, like I said, now that we're going back to divisional play, a north and a south, that makes the travel schedule much easier for us. Obviously, being in Grande Prairie, we have additional travel that other teams just simply don't have. But going back into those 2 divisions will make it a little bit easier for us as well, eases some of the financial burden. They've also reduced the schedule. So we'll have 3 fewer home games, but also 3 fewer away games. And in addition to that, the 12th team that was added is in Devon, which makes it feasible for us to go and come back So now there are 3 teams in the league that we can travel to and from the same day and won't incur hotel costs. So we're also expecting that this makes the league more competitive. There's some likely rule changes coming into play as well. So really what we're able to offer players is an opportunity for elite hockey while still maintaining the eligibility to play for an NCAA scholarship.
Excellent. Thank you.
Mayor Clayton.
Thanks, Chair Blackmore. Maybe a question for our CFO. Can you give me an update on how the financial arrangement went for the previous year in regards to loans, as well as remind me the amount that was given to the Storm and if gift in kind last year?
Certainly. Thank you for the question, Mayor Clayton. So when we look back on the 23-24 season, there was staffing expenses from Banet's guest services, operations, box office, those items around $82,000. In addition, the gift of revenue between the junior Storm Ice, so there was Ice at Design Work Center, as well as Banet's Energy Center for both games, and the junior Storm Ice times total just about $63,000 there. Now we do, of course, from games get some catering commission, so that does offset some of these costs as well. So the net sort of city impact for last season was $83,000. The loan deferral, the next payments will start in 2026, so the loan has been deferred into 2026. In addition to that, we do provide Eastlink passes for registered players. That totals around $8,000 a year.
If I may, Chair Blackmore, remind me the debt servicing on that loan.
Thank you for the question. So we did self-fund that loan. The original amount was $200,000. I'll have to revisit what the actual interest rate was that was applied. I'll just revisit the bylaw. So if you just bear with me a moment, I can look that up.
Thank you.
Councillor Bosch.
Thank you, Chair Blackmore. I'm not on this committee, but I do have a question. Thank you for the report. It's a great report. My question is, especially with some of the changes and really where we live, what is the need and potential cost for a video complement to the Storm team so that scouts can, watch our kids and perhaps get them into different avenues of play?
Yeah, absolutely. We do utilize that through the AJHL and the Flow Hockey. Flow Hockey provides game-by-game breakdown as well as full games, clipped games. And our GM is excellent about working with schools to make sure that they get that, and will continue to do so this year.
Councillor Bressie.
Thank you. I've got a colleague who's curious, trying to figure out what changes might save. What's the approximate cost to the team of doing a road trip where you have to go overnight and you have to do a trip to go to a game?
In general, we have our road trip breakdown. In general, it would cost the team one night with the bus, meals, hotels, about $8,000, depending on how far we're going. So that's why it's a big positive for us that there are 3 teams now that we can do just the busing for.
Mayor Clayton, are you done, Councillor Bressie?
Sorry, just wanted to let you know, Chair Blackmore, the CFO's in the queue, and I have a question following her information.
Thank you, Chair Blackmore. Just to follow up on Mayor Clayton's previous question. So the original loan was $200,000 at 4.25% interest. The deferral does have foregone interest for the 3-year deferral period of around $13,000.
Thank you. If I could, Ms. Menzies, can you tell me, I know you have great attendance in the league, and in particular compared to other teams, what does the total attendance for a year look like?
Last year, it was north of 40,000, so I can get you, including our playoffs, our exhibition games would be a little bit higher than that. I can get you the exact number on that.
Oh, that's great. And then if I may, the financial capacity of paying the debt going forward? How's it looking going forward?
We're in a much better position than we were last year. We've kind of had a record year in terms of income, which we had last year and we're able to beat this year. Like I said, we've made some significant changes to our operating budget, as well as our plan for increasing fundraising and attracting other sponsors. So 33% new sponsors this year. With our budget this year, if we are able to include this, we are projecting a significant income of the exact number, about $100,000. But again, we're working to kind of pay down the debt and the loans from COVID. So,
Mayor Clayton.
So in your request for the continued partnership, the 3 specific items, the first 2, I'm assuming are similar requests that we've done previously. Mm-hmm. Is there any additional elements of that? And if maybe you can expand on that. And also the third item, what are your expectations and what's that request specifically?
The first 2 are just identical to last season. So we would just be asking for an identical repeat from last season. And the third is really just asking for the city's support in those events. So our home opener, our Indigenous Night, the Playoff Fan Festival, the Prospects Camp, those are all events where we see the largest number of attendance. And so just kind of the city presence there is what we'd be asking.
Yeah, and that's
support.
Specifically what I was hoping to clarify.
Yeah.
Partnership means different things to different people.
Yeah.
So is this a cash ask?
This is not a cash ask.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
I see no other questions for the delegation, so thank you very much for coming today. And do we have any business arising from this delegation? Mayor Clayton.
Sure, I'm happy to make a motion to send this to council for consideration. So I'd move that committee not direct council. What am I looking for? Recommend, thank you, council, support the continued partnership with the Grande Prairie Junior A Storm, including all 3 items as requested in the report. Don't know where I sit on these yet, but I think it's something all of council should have a discussion about. So we'll get it from this committee to council for discussion. Thanks.
Questions or debate on the motion? Call a question. And that motion does carry, so you'll be on the next council agenda.
Thanks for having us.
We'll move on to a service area update. Chief McEachern.
Thank you, Chair Blackmore. I'll start today with economic development. In the past week, the Invest Grande Prairie team coordinated 2 physician tours, which included city tours and a meeting with the mayor as part of ongoing efforts to support the Grande Prairie Regional Hospital's recruitment initiatives. This current week, Invest Grande Prairie, along with the county and the MD, will have a booth at the Global Energy Show Canada, the largest conference for the energy industry. The event brings together industry buyers, sellers, stakeholders, and professionals to share knowledge and drive innovation. We're excited to showcase our region and connect with global leaders in the energy industry. And worknorthwestalberta.ca has seen 965 visitors since its soft launch 2 weeks ago. Site visits originated from within Canada, but also from the US, Netherlands, China, Finland, Austria, and Ireland. 766 of those went direct to the site, and another 205 of those were organic through social media. The site currently has no formal marketing or paid promotions so far. In events and entertainment, GP Stampede had their largest year-to-date through the Bonnett's Energy Centre box office, with $280,114 going to the GP Stampede Association and another $26,543 in box office proceeds retained by the city. We had an open house last Tuesday at the Bows for potential user groups. The groups that attended were engaged and optimistic about the space. We had invited about 26 different groups. Unfortunately, there was volleyball, pickleball, tennis, and soccer had attended, but we would have liked to have seen more attendance. Grande Prairie Public School District hosted Indigenous graduation on June 6th at the Teresa Sargent Hall for all their Indigenous, Métis, and Inuit students, which included a brunch, cultural teaching, and a ceremony. Canada Day Entertainment has been announced. The event will be headlined by the Dorina Harvey Band with support from the Northbloods and Mandy Ray. And Travel Alberta has awarded Grand North Winter Festival with a $50,000 grant for our 2025 event in January. For event listings, Grand Gathering Gala, June 15th. The Grande Prairie Powwow will be June 21st to 23rd. Charles Spencer High School graduation, June 26th. Canada Day on July 1st. Grand Con Comic Con, July 10th to 12th. Rotary Rib Fest, July 19th to 21st. Heritage Day, August 3rd. Storm Main Camp, August 23rd to 25th. Experience GP, Friday, August 30th. And then into September, we have Nighthawk Comedy Night Fundraiser, September 21st. And the Peace Region Invitational PBR is back, September 27th to 28th. And with that, I can take any questions.
I see no hands going up, so I think that we can move on to item 4.2, healthcare attraction. And I will look for Chief McEachern to introduce that.
Thank you, Chair Blackmore. So Ms. Kim Pinnock is going to present on our update with the healthcare attraction and retention strategy. And I'll pass it over to Ms. Pinnock.
Thank you, Chief McEachern. And good morning, committee. My name is Kim Pinnock. I'm a senior strategic advisor here with the city and here to talk about the healthcare attraction and retention strategy. So I'll just go over quickly workforce current state, healthcare attraction and retention strategy, the action plan, and next steps. Healthcare is a provincial responsibility, and in Alberta, it's the ministry who sets the policy and strategic direction, and AHS who currently delivers the services. It's AHS and other professional bodies who recruit and regulate the healthcare professions. Municipalities can play a role in attracting healthcare professionals by making their communities attractive and welcoming, sharing that knowledge, showing appreciation, and working collaboratively to identify and support infrastructure that may be needed for new businesses to set up. I've included some specific stats in the report, but overall, the purpose of this section is simply to say that access to physicians is not an isolated issue in Grande Prairie. It's a national and provincial issue and is facing many communities. AHS locally continues to identify gaps in healthcare workforce needs. We have some high vacancies in the North Zone, and AHS continues to be actively recruiting new physicians and specialists to the city, among other healthcare professionals. So what does this mean for Grande Prairie? As the city and our region grows, our healthcare workforce needs will continue to increase. We have a new hospital and it will require a full complement of healthcare staff to maximize its operating efficiencies. We have several new and emerging opportunities in the city, including the new Masco Medical Clinic project and the recently announced Rural Medical Education Program. The city has an opportunity to support workforce development in this sector through some strategic actions. Council had requested that Invest Grande Prairie explore the development of a healthcare attraction and retention strategy. The strategy attached is being recommended by administration for adoption. It includes an overview of actions that will support attraction and retention of healthcare professionals with a specific focus on physicians and specialists. It includes some guiding principles that administration will consider as we execute the strategy and some metrics to consider to measure successes. The strategy identifies 3 focus areas: information, focused on increasing awareness of our local opportunities; incentives, targeted and strategic approaches to boost attraction and retention and to set us apart from other municipalities; and infrastructure, exploring projects that can boost infrastructure and capacity within the city and help support the future development of a healthcare cluster. The action plan is broken into 2 phases. Phase 1 includes activities that administration proposes to undertake in 2024, and Phase 2 includes activities to be undertaken in 2025 and 2026. With both phases, opportunities for regional collaboration will be explored. I have included the activities that administration proposes to undertake between now and the end of Q4 2024 on this slide. The ones in white are activities that the City and Invest Grande Prairie is currently working on. The ones in gold are the new activities proposed for Phase 1. All of the activities for Phase 1 will be funded through the Economic Development Operating Budget and the $50,000 that Council allocated to this project as part of the 2024 capital budget. In particular, the physician attraction incentives will be where the bulk of that funding goes, and administration will bring forward a report and recommended policy/incentive program for Council approval in Q3. Council has identified a desire to be involved in this work directly, so a task force is proposed, as is an action item to identify community ambassadors, as attracting and retaining newcomers and professionals will be most successful with many local champions. So administration recommends that committee recommends Council approve the strategy and action plan, and if approved, administration will bring forward relevant policies according to the timelines identified in the action plan and bring forward future funding asks as required through the normal budget process and report back to Council through the Invest Grande Prairie Committee on a semi-annual basis. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
You thundered right through that, Ms. Panic. Do we have any questions? Councillor Palat.
Thanks, Chair Blackmore. Is it possible to let us know? I know we're working on a strategy, but I hear we're getting some wins and we are attracting some positions. So how are you messaging that to our community that we are getting some wins already with some of the things that we're doing? Is there a process for that, or how are we promoting that?
Through the chair, we have been including some of our successes in our chief's update through committee, including the physician site visits that the mayor and other council members have been active in, along with our Invest Grande Prairie team, and those have seen significant success.
Okay. And I guess for me, sometimes I think that it would be nice to have more external. I think we hear about it quite often, but I think for the community here that there's actually been some great strides already going. This would be nice to hear. It's nice to always have the wins being promoted within the community. And if I can have another question.
Go ahead, yeah.
On a different one, when I look at the action plan, I'm excited about getting ambassadors involved with this. And I see that's coming at some point, and it's going to be a Q3 thing. Will there be another touch point on council with that for how you're going to do the selections for ambassadors, or is that just going to be an administrative task as part of the action plan? I'm just wondering how we're going to select ambassadors, I guess, was what I'm curious about. Is that just an administrative thing, or is it like committees in the past where council would select individuals to go on a committee? I'm just wondering how that's going to work.
CEO Burke.
I'm not familiar with all the details, but that is a good suggestion. Administration can come back and have that discussion at some point with committee or council. So we'll let us take that away as a consideration, as some input from committee.
I would appreciate that. And just one other one, if I can, unless you have anybody else. Just looking at our strategy, we've got to establish a task force, and then a couple bullets lower in our actions is establish an informal community advisory group. So the reason I'm asking about that is that one's happening in Q2, one's happening in Q3. Part of me would like to see that advisory, that ambassador group, be part of the task force, and maybe I'm the only one on that. I feel like if it's just city-led and administrative-led, that we're not getting that horsepower from the community behind us that I think the ambassadors could bring. So just another comment for me for administration, maybe consider running those parallels together and trying to get some ambassadors right involved with the task force right from the start, just to get that outside of the organization thinking on that as well would just be something that I would look for. Those are my comments. Great report, so appreciate them.
I have a question that kind of follows along the same lines. As I'm wondering how you envision the task force. Are we looking at elected officials? Are we going out into the community? We're running it like an advisory committee. I'm not really seeing how the task force will roll out. And certainly there's strengths in all directions.
Through the chair, based on some feedback that we originally had from council to have council involvement and also have administration involvement in that, the idea would be that that's a bit more of a targeted task force with some members of council. I believe the action item includes the mayor, the Invest Grande Prairie Committee chair, the chair of the Economic Advisory Committee, and then some representatives from a couple of the city departments that have currently been involved in some of this work, including communications, intergovernmental relations, and Invest Grande Prairie. Just a note on the wider kind of advisory group. We've listed it as informal in there because we have done one roundtable that included a number of community groups that are touching the attraction and retention kind of file. And their feedback was that it was really valuable to have an opportunity, a forum for them to get together and to just share some information. And so the task force could be a bit more nimble and be strategically focused through council. And the advisory group is more of an informal gathering to be able to share information, provide updates, and hear what else is happening in the community.
So it's a good vehicle to disseminate that information out into the public, I would think. Yeah. I see no other hands going up for questions. Business arising?
No, I was just going to identify in the report there who is specifically on the task force. And then it was my understanding from previous discussions that once that task force, as identified in the report, is established, the local ambassadors would work with the task force to be included and share information. But I'm good, thanks.
We do have some business, so is Councillor Palat.
Thanks, Chair Blackmore. Do you want me to do these as separate motions, or can I do them both as one?
I'll do them both together. If we need to split them, we can.
So I'd move that committee recommend council accept the healthcare retention and retraction strategy as presented, and accept the healthcare strategy 2024-2026 action plan as presented, with activities identified for 2024 through 2024. Healthcare strategy capital account and economic operating budgets.
You missed the word 2024, funded through the 2024 healthcare strategy capital account. Any questions or concerns with the motion? Seeing no hands, I'll call a question. And that does carry. Moving on to item 4.3, urban agricultural land use bylaw amendments. I think that's probably Chief Glavin who's introducing that.
Thank you, Chair Blackmore. Over the years, the city has received numerous rezoning applications to rezone lands to urban reserve that would allow for agricultural use. Committee has directed administration to bring back considerations if council added agricultural use as discretionary in certain land use districts. And I think Ms. Downing is ready to go, so I will pass it over to her. Thanks.
Good morning, Chair Blackmore and councillors. On March 19th, 2024, committee directed administration to bring back recommended considerations regarding adding agricultural use as discretionary in certain land use districts. This motion is in response to a number of applications for agricultural operations in urban areas. On the screen is a map showing the general location of those applications. The following factors were taken into consideration when developing proposed regulations. Agricultural operations in urban areas may pose challenges such as increased traffic and safety concerns, chemical exposure, air quality issues, noise disturbances, unpleasant odors, and wildfire hazards. Regulations should address and manage these potential issues. The proposed use and regulations are in the attachment in the report. The proposed new definition for urban agriculture distinguishes it from a general agricultural operation, and it mitigates concerns by specifically excluding livestock operations. Classifying the use as discretionary allows the Development Authority to ensure its appropriateness and prevent unsuitable applications. Issuing temporary permits enables administration to revoke the permit or require changes if concerns arise. The proposed regulations address other considerations with agriculture in urban settings. It is recommended that committee direct administration to bring forward land use bylaw amendments allowing urban agriculture in urban areas as per the regulations in attachment A for council consideration. Thank you.
Do we have business arising? Councillor Bressie.
Yep, thank you, Chair Blackmore. And also, I've got to say, I really like this format we're being given. That I think I've seen once or twice, but certainly not every time we're looking at land use bylaws, of getting to see specific things that we change before it comes to council, but not having the whole bylaw here. I really like this format of how this is being done. So thanks for the work for that. That being said, I'm happy to make the motion the committee direct administration to bring forward land use bylaw amendments to allow urban agriculture in urban areas based on the proposed regulations outlined in attachment A for council consideration.
Mayor Clayton.
Thanks, Chair Blackmore. Just more for those who may be watching or listening. Maybe administration can tell me the process, assuming this motion is passed. What's the timeline look like before it comes back to council to discuss bylaw amendments? And will there be opportunity for public input?
Thank you, through the chair. The timeline would be a minimum of 2 months, and it would involve the required public engagement through the Municipal Government Act, which involves advertising, and we could have an internal discussion as to what other public engagement would be.
I'm not suggesting that unless committee wants to see more, I just want the public to be aware. This is happening. There are amendments coming forward. If councillors or public are looking for more information, there will be a period of time for those questions to be asked. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor Clayton. Do we have any other questions or concerns? We do have a motion on the floor.
Sorry, I have one more comment. Sorry, my apologies. I want to thank administration for, as Councillor Bressie mentioned, I appreciate the format. I also appreciate the fact that this council has been very clear on their intent to be nimble and responsive to industry and nimble and responsive to the expectations of our community and our region. And I've heard a few comments in the community lately that we're moving too quickly. I think it's something that we actually should be proud of. For many, many years, elected officials heard that our organization wasn't moving quickly. Now we're being nimble and responsive, and I think it's something that needs to be recognized. So thank you for your report today.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. I will call a question.
Bressie in favor.
And that motion does carry. We'll move on to item 4.4, multi-unit residential fee rebate incentive. And Chief McEachern.
Thank you, Chair Blackmore. So this item that we're presenting today, Council had directed administration to bring back a report to the InvestGP Standing Committee identifying opportunities for rebates and other opportunities in multifamily residential developments. So Director Rebecca Dodd is here to present the report on that today. And with that, I'll pass it over to Ms. Dodd.
Thank you, Chair Committee. On May 21st, 2024, City Council directed administration to bring back a report to the appropriate standing committee identifying opportunities for support or rebates in multifamily residential development. Prior to that, in June of 2021, City Council had previously approved Policy 357, Development Incentives and Grants Program, or the DIG program. Within the DIG program, we saw 5 grant opportunities. Of those, 2 specifically dealt with residential development, with the residential infill grant and the municipal fee rebate. As per the policy and procedure, funded portions of that program were recalled and closed on December 30th, 2022. So that includes the municipal fee rebate and the infill grant portions. The 2 tax rebates pertaining to non-residential development, larger scale industrial and commercial, remain open until the end of 2025. The municipal fee rebate was designed as a grant equal to the city-imposed portions of inspection services, engineering, and planning and development fees to a maximum of $10,000. While the municipal fee rebate was open, 7 grants were approved for a total of $27,000. These included 1 single detached dwelling with a secondary suite, 3 semi-detached duplexes, 2 triplexes, and 1 8-unit building.
The average grant amount for the duration of the program was just over $2,800, excluding the 8-unit building, which utilized the full $10,000 grant maximum due to a land use bylaw amendment. Meanwhile, in order to support multifamily development, Aquaterra has implemented a 2-year relief on infrastructure charges for new construction of multifamily developments. This is set to remain open until the end of 2025. And for the purpose of Aquaterra's program, multifamily residences are defined as duplexes, multi-attached dwellings, residential condominiums, secondary suites, and semi-detached dwellings. Over the last few years, the bulk of the multifamily building permit activity that we've seen has been happening within the duplex category. Since 2017, we've seen 287 secondary suites, 147 semi-detached homes, 17 triplexes, and 2 eightplexes. The last full apartment building that the city saw was a 42-unit built in 2014. As outlined in Attachment B, we've done a tabletop exercise to take a look at the average building permit, building, planning, development, and engineering fees. These are based on average construction costs and historical permit data. As you can see within the attachment, any projects larger than 6 units would exceed $10,000 in city fees. Therefore, the suggested amendments eliminate the previous $10,000 cap on the fee rebate to ensure that the proposed program provides material benefits to larger multi-unit developments. In terms of economic impact, this program is expected to positively impact the local economy. Grande Prairie currently is facing a rental vacancy of less than 1%, which is adversely affecting workforce availability and something that we're hearing from our businesses in terms of their ability to recruit. Implementing a municipal fee rebate program would encourage construction of new multi-unit housing, thereby increasing availability of accommodations for existing and incoming workforce. As an alternative, we have included the option for council to amend the proposed changes to allow for single-family dwellings with secondary suites as well as semi-detached. This would align with Aquaterra's program in allowing for duplexes within the program. However, it was left out at this point by recommendation from council, from administration, just because this is the area where we have continued to see some development activity. So with that, today administration recommends that the Invest GP Committee recommend council approve the amendments to Policy 357 as attached, including the removal of the Business Revitalization Grant and Residential Infill Grant, the removal of the $10,000 maximum to the municipal fee rebate, and the addition of definitions for apartment building, mixed-use apartment building, and multi-unit residential. Further, we recommend that the Invest GP Committee recommend council direct administration to consolidate all unallocated funding from the Economic Recovery Fund into the Development Grants and Incentives Fund and allocate $1 million to the municipal fee rebate program, with the remainder left to be unallocated within the DIG program. With that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Dodd. I would look for first Councillor Palat and then Mayor Clayton.
Thanks, Chair Blackmore. Thanks for the report on this. I'm just curious where we come up with the $1 million. I guess when I look in the report, there was when I'm reading it, it looked like about 17,000 or something. There wasn't a 27,000, I think it was, from previous when we had the program open. And when I'm looking at what an 80-unit apartment building could be, we could have 8 of those and several other things happen to get to $1 million. So I'm just wondering why we chose $1 million, or if you can give me an explanation on that.
Thank you. Through the chair, the funding that's recommended for this program is left unallocated from a combination of the DIG program as well as economic recovery. The previous version of the municipal fee rebate was focused more so on smaller residential development. It wasn't targeting larger multi-unit residential, which is where we saw that cap of the $10,000. So we did utilize quite a bit less of that funding than had originally anticipated. So this was funding that was remaining unallocated and looking just to better utilize currently for some larger projects.
Okay. No, and can just a follow up on that as well, or just wondering with the Aquaterra announcement, can you remind me, is there an end date on that with the infrastructure fees, or is it just? I like the idea, but personally, I like the idea of getting this to council, but I'll be happy to debate that we should include single family and duplexes as well, just to try to piggyback on these incentives right now, especially if it's going to be that secondary suite. So I'm just wondering when has Aquaterra put an end date on that at this point, or?
Thank you. Through the chair, Aquaterra's program is set to remain open until December 31st, 2025, or until such time that Aquaterra deems to cancel or extend the programs.
Okay, thanks for that.
Mayor Clayton?
I just wanted to, two things. So it's not new money, just so that we're aware. The other part, I wondered if there's any consideration given to this policy amendment to have an expiration date. I don't know if it's required in perpetuity. I'm wondering if there was consideration given to it to align with Aquaterra's, so that there was a City of Grande Prairie's relatively specific program from the city in partnership with Aquaterra.
Thank you. Through the chair, that was considered. Ultimately, it was left at the $1 million fund to be closed once the funds run out. However, should council choose, that would be a simple amendment to the policy.
Yeah, so just speaking out loud, just thinking out loud here, I think that makes sense to me in regards to having an opportunity then, because it could come back to council for review, rather than, it'll be a brand new council at the end of 2025 who may take some, a little bit of time to get their feet under them. So rather than having to wait for it to come back. So yeah, I'm just, question then for the CEO, would you like to see amendments such as that, or one that Councillor Palat mentioned when it comes to council, or would you prefer to see those amendments debated and discussed here today?
I'd say, well, both are acceptable. I'd suggest that the timeline would be a good one to include today, so that it's for full consideration of council, and so that a report be brought back where the program concludes at the end of 2025. Either way, so I think some sort of sunset or review, depending on committee's wishes, would be an acceptable amendment here.
So I'm happy, Madam Chair, if you'd like to do business arising to try to stumble my way through those.
I see no other hands being thrown in the air.
All right. So I would move the committee recommend council approve amendments to policy 357 as presented, including the removal of business revitalization grant and residential infill grant, removing the $10,000 maximum and adding definitions for apartment building, mixed-use apartment, and multi-unit residential, and adding a sunset clause to expire these amendments of December 31st, 2025, and in addition, adding secondary suites into this into the amendments in this policy. And happy to do the second one as in your package. So direct administration to consolidate all unallocated funding from the Economic Recovery Fund into the Development Grants and Incentives Fund, and allocate $1 million of that to the municipal fee rebate program, with the remainder to be left unallocated within the DIG program. Thanks. And speaking to that, I think we're seeing us build out a package of offering for incentives for why hopefully it'll make sense to build these apartment and multi-unit structures and duplexes in our community, with the federal government offering no GST, with the Aquaterra hiatus on development, with these amendments, with the Bank of Canada reducing the interest rates by 0.25%, a combination of all those things, as well as potential new amendments to CMHC. We really have done everything that I think Council has put forward and sees as an opportunity. So I'm optimistic that these changes, added with the other changes already mentioned, make us a desirable place for additional multi. Thanks.
Councillor Palat.
Thanks, Chair Blackmore. Just wonder, Mayor Clayton, if I could ask for a friendly amendment just to add also duplexes in that. We've added secondary suites.
Yep,
just
absolutely.
So it does align with
Duplexes
that.
and secondary suites. Thank you.
Councillor Bressy.
Great, thank you. Something, my question I've got for administration, something I don't understand with secondary suites is, if these amendments pass and we're forgiving fees for secondary suites, does that mean that we're forgiving fees for the entire build, or we're giving the incremental cost that a secondary suite would add to that house? Do you know?
Through the chair, We would have to look to the procedure amendments and clarify that.
So if I can just, and I'll ask a question to Mr. Glavin because he has his mic on. My interpretation, if somebody went to build a brand new unit that included a secondary suite, that would qualify as council is discussing. Would that be administration's interpretation?
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. Ultimately, that would be however the procedures are written. So if it is the intention of committee and council to have those fees waived for the entire build, it would be useful to know that so that it's ensured that it's put in the procedures.
I don't know if that answers your question, Councillor Bressy.
I guess my question then, I guess, is actually for you, Mayor Clayton, as the mover of this motion. I guess, what's your intent? What's the direction you're hoping that we...
Yeah, my intent for a period of time is that we would offer incentive for people to build multi-units and not just single-family dwellings. With that, and then people who are going to be listening and hearing about this proposed amendment to our policy may ask why. And the thought behind the conversations previously were that anytime we can add multi, it helps our community. And in regards to the significant shortage of rental units and multi-family, this really, the amendments to this bylaw help us become a more dense community, reduce urban sprawl, and in turn, increase our tax base. We know that the assessment on a multi-family house or multi-residential house will have a larger assessment and therefore increase our tax base. So my intent would be that it incentivized for a period of time.
Councillor Palat.
Thanks, Chair Blackmore. Just on that kind of same vein, I'm just curious, and if I was looking at a 3-plex, a 4-plex, an 8-plex of 2040, when I read that report, we're assuming, or maybe I'm reading it, assuming it, but that we would be waiving all the fees in those. So I'm just curious what the policy difference would, just to Mayor Clayton's motion, I would assume that the policy would blanket all of them and that we wouldn't single out how we would do an up, down, or side by side. So I guess I would just like consistency in it. I think for industry, they'd like to know the consistency of it if we're going to approve something. So I'm happy to support the motion because I think that's a direction that I'd like to see us going. But just for it to be consistent, if we're going to waive them, we're waiving them for everybody that's applying in those areas.
Do we have any other questions or debate for the motion?
And just in closing, if I could, Chair, I look forward to the full discussion with all of council on this. I think this puts the wheels in motion and look forward to the discussion and debate at council.
And hearing that, I will call a question. And that motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Dodd. Moving on to the next item of the agenda, I look for Chief McEachern for the outstanding items list.
Thank you, Chair Blackmore. We will have items 1322 and 1282 just to be updated with council dates. And with that, no other changes recommended for the oil list.
Councillor Bressy.
Great. I'm happy to move that we accept the oil list as amendment, and I just got logged out of the e-scribe, so I vote in favor.
That motion carries, so this meeting is adjourned. Chris was online. Now he's not online, so I don't know if he's on his way here or what the issue is.